So since this is one of my first videos, I thought I'd do it on a topic of something that I was really interested in. And one of the top hobbies that I do is martial arts. And the questions I generally get from my friends are, what exactly is martial arts? And when I was researching this, I looked at some definitions on the internet, and I didn't quite agree with what they were saying martial arts were, and that's pretty much because there's a difference between definition and translation of what martial arts is. So I'm just going to read out some definitions from various sources as to what they say martial arts is. So from the Cambridge Dictionary, it says a martial arts is a sport that is a traditional Japanese or Chinese form of fighting or defending yourself. Dictionary.com says martial arts is any of the traditional forms of oriental self-defense or combat that utilizes physical skill and coordination without weapons, as karate, aikido, judo or kung fu, often practiced as a sport. Oxford Dictionary says martial arts are various sports which originated chiefly in Japan, Korea and China as forms of self-defense or attack, such as judo, karate and kendo. Now, as you can see, there's only some slight differences in the definitions, but you can sort of see some clear themes through these definitions. For example, that they originate from the east of Asia, that they're sports. But now I just want to go along to what the translation of martial arts is. For those of you who don't know, martial arts is a Latin phrase, which in English means the art of Mars. Now, Mars is referring to the Roman god of war. So generally, the translation is the art of war. That's what martial arts generally translates as. So, as you can see, with these definitions, they don't really fit. They're referring to sports, not combat generally. But the original creation of a martial art was to be used for warfare and combat. Also, martial arts is a Latin term, and it was generally used for Western combat. And it is, to my opinion, that martial arts isn't sort of generalised to specific countries. It's a whole world thing. It's to all sort of combat systems around the whole world. This sort of reminds me of a story when I went to the martial arts show a couple of years ago, and there was a Krav Maga instructor who said that Krav Maga isn't a martial art because it's used for warfare. And I just sort of think, well, the translation of it, I thought it would fit perfectly because it is used for warfare. But I suppose this is sort of going on to the subject of change of focus, really, of what the martial arts is. Traditionally, martial arts were used for combat and warfare, but as time went on and as warfare has decreased, whether you agree with that or not, but I believe that general crime has decreased over time, homicides, warfare, and this basically was putting martial arts out of business. So they generally had to change their focus to keep in business. Now, Ian Abernethy, who is a very popular karate instructor, has commented frequently on this sort of topic, particularly in Japan, where the focus was changed instead of warfare to sort of character and self-development, as well as with a martial arts natural tendency to specialise in a particular area. For example, judo, karate and boxing used to be a lot more generalised. For example, boxing used to use weapons as well as throws. Judo used to use strikes, and karate used to use, well, throws and all the rest of it, which Ian Abernethy particularly focuses on. Now, and then this sort of and then what happens over time is the martial art tends to specialise. For example, judo now specialises more so in throws, and you can even see in recent times judo has had to change their rules to become much more unique. For example, with the lack of sort of leg locks and the rest of it, which was ruled out only a few years ago, just to sort of keep itself original. And of course this is going to sort of have a wave-like effect on the training, because if you can't use it in competition, which judo is a sport, then they won't tend to train in it. It's the same with boxing. We now know boxing is basically a striking, punching art. Karate only uses particularly striking techniques of kicks, punches, to particularly generalise it. And when I sort of think back to websites who have sort of commented on what martial arts are, to get a sort of generalised opinion on the matter, it seems like martial arts are becoming much more subjective to individuals. It's what the individual makes of it now, as it seems. It seems as well, particularly in recent years, martial arts is sort of swaying more to the self-protection area, and less so from the sort of direct self-development that we sort of particularly know it as. So I suppose I now put the question on to you as to what you think the martial arts are to you. For me, I define martial arts as a method of challenging yourself and others to grow physically, mentally, spiritually, even emotionally, through this sort of resistance. And through this resistance will come growth. That's how I define martial arts anyway. But yeah, and that's probably a bit generalised for a lot of people, but that is how I see it. So what do you think martial arts are?